Welcome to the Rock is George podcast. I'm your host, George Dionne, and this is episode 95. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube or Apple Music or Spotify or wherever you're listening to the Rock is George podcast. And also check us out at theloudest.com on the planet, knac.com. For this episode, I have two guests, vocalist and guitarist SETH CROWELL and drummer ZACK FIERMAN of the Boston-based band The Freqs. They have a fantastic new EP coming out on February 3rd called Poachers. It's a digital-only release. Band sort of has that sludge rock, modern rock, little punk rock sound to it. So here they are to tell you more about their upcoming Poachers EP. Here's SETH CROWELL and ZACK FIERMAN of The Freqs. If I knew absolutely nothing about The Freqs, how would you describe the band's music to me?
I would say that we try to embody that like grungy underbelly that like rock and punk used to have. That it's a little too polished for me now to my taste. Obviously, you can find it anywhere. I would describe The Freqs as trying to embody that scuzz in a package most fitting for a live setting.
Would you agree with that, Zach?
Absolutely. Yeah. Loud, fuzzy, gross, riffy rock music, man.
I'd kind of put you guys in the stoner rock category, sort of Black Sabbath-y with like a little modernness to it.
Sure.
Definitely. That's a nice description.
Well, this question's for Seth. How and when did the band originally form?
Wow, that's a good question because it's not that simple. So I've been using the name The Freqs since I was living down in Miami back in 2016 probably, and through many different lineups and many different sounds, the name continued as just kind of like something I used, hopefully as just something that would come together, and it really kind of materialized once Ian joined the band, and it became like what this Freqs lineup is now. I didn't record anything prior to that, so it doesn't count.
Now, Zach, you came on to the band this year, so how were you recruited into this?
It's about a year and a half ago. I was living in Nashville at the time. I was touring and playing out there, and I moved back up here. And the pandemic hit, so I didn't play for almost like, a year and a half, 2 years. And I put out an ad on Craigslist, just like a video of me playing a bunch of different styles. Not really expecting anything good to come from it because Craigslist never works out, literally ever. And I got a bunch of terrible responses from people, but then Seth reached out and was like, dude, yeah, whatever, you sound great. Here's my band, The Freqs. Let me know if you like it. I literally couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'm like, this is so odd. Like, how is this a Craigslist person, like stranger? So then we met up, me, Seth, and Ian. We got in a rehearsal, a practice room in Ian's basement, and it was like as if we had known each other our whole lives. Like, Cinderella story. Like, the rest is history, as they say. But it was a Craigslist ad, man. So random.
Did the Freqs start off as a cover band, as most club bands do?
No, I don't think we've ever played a cover.
No.
So what does a Freqs set list look like? You only have a few EPs under your belt.
So we've got one album and 2 EPs, and then the one we're dropping now. And I'm also constantly writing, so we've probably got a whole nother album's worth of material to work on too. So there's a lot to draw from.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about that album that's coming out February 3rd, Poachers EP. When we talk a little bit about the tracks going forward, are you the main lyricist, Seth, and then everybody comes up with the music, or is it a collaborative effort first?
Yeah, I usually come up with the lyrics, but when something isn't sticking, I'll run it by the guys.
Okay, let's talk a little bit of how Poacher Gets the Tusk came together, a little bit of a longer song to kick things off on the EP.
Like our writing process is typically pretty straightforward. I come up with an idea, maybe a hook and some words, I bring it to the guys, and it usually comes together pretty fast if it's going to work. I mean, both Zach and Ian have like a pretty good ear, and they will call me out if it's not working or not gelling. But they're also both good enough that they can make something work for a while.
Well, to your credit, like half the time that he comes in with a song, and it's like 80% there, 90. Like, I mean, he is a very gifted songwriter, so it's not like we're polishing turds, but it's typically, yeah, he comes in with a lot of the song, and then we just, piece the rest together.
Yeah. And that song I felt like was pretty heavily influenced by the tumultuous period during the 2020, 2021. And I guess you would say prior to that with the Black Lives Matter protests as well. There was a lot that kind of fed into that. A lot of these song ideas germinate in my mind, and eventually they come out as songs because I don't really have those internal conversations with myself. It just pops out in a song.
I feel like the whole EP is sort of tackling social issues beyond what you mentioned with the first song.
Yeah. And maybe that's not even initially how I intend it. And then I read the lyrics after I'm done writing them.
You have a single out ahead of the EP's release called Witch, and this sort of has a backstory rooted in distant relatives of yours. Rebecca Nurse is a distant relative of yours. She was considered a witch in the old Salem witch trial days. And if you want to talk a little bit about the story behind that song.
Yeah, that's a song that goes back a long ways. That's one of the first songs that became in my mind what I wanted the Freqs to sound like. And through different lineups, it changed, and we added to it, and we even recorded kind of partially on our first record, but it wasn't really quite right. So we every show we would end our set with Witch because it was just such a powerful song to us. And that became kind of like our rallying cry of let's re-record this now that we have the final lineup. And that song to me, because of my family connection, because of I guess my feelings on you can read into it, but my feelings on male and female violence and that it comes out pretty strong for me.
Absolutely. Zach, as a drummer, going into a song like this is kind of deep. How do you approach something like that? Does Seth kind of give you how to play it, or do you just kind of feel the song when he presents it to you?
It's a little bit of both. Seth he plays drums as well, which is nice. We can speak like drummies to each other, take it up, but give me, do that. But for the most part, I just kind of play what I feel, get some feedback from them. But both Seth and Ian groove very hard. So it makes my job a lot easier they already have a really well-defined sense of time and rhythm. So I can just kind of easily pick up on what I think it's supposed to sound like. And then we just go from there. And Seth's really verbal, hey, I like that. Don't do that. That was cool. Same with Ian, nice job, but don't do that. That kind of stuff.
Using the word single for music release seems kind of passe, but do you have another song that you're going to release as a single or video going forward?
Yeah, we have Poachers Gets the Tusk, the first song on the EP coming, that we're going to drop that as well this Friday. Yeah. And we have a music video, which we shot for it, which is way beyond better than what we're deserving of. And that should be coming out in the next 2 weeks.
So for this video, did you get a professional film crew and have them do it?
We did, but by accident. My friend, he started out as just my wife, who's a Boston Marathon runner. One of her running partners, his name is Colby. He's the nicest guy. made a mention in passing, oh, I make music videos, and come to find out that he is far too humble. He has access to $100,000 cameras through his work, and way too many nice friends who wanted to spend 2 days in a row without getting paid and eating pizza
in a dark warehouse basement.
Yeah, Zach, you can kind of more attest to the technical scope of this, but yeah.
Yeah, they're very, very talented videographers and DPs, and it, you know, the edits we've seen, we're all like, I can't believe we're in this music video. Like, it looks like something you would see on like MTV or something. We're like, wow, it came out really well. Like, we can't wait to share it with everyone.
Did you just film the one video, or did you do like a couple at one time since you had this person at your disposal?
Just the one so far, but you know, all of our eggs in one basket. I think it'll be worth it. But it won't. It'll be the first of many.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the song "Power Trip" and what's kind of the meaning behind that song.
That's again kind of more about police brutality and a fascination with authoritarianism, and basically I guess it's the message, and it's a protest on that ideology. As simple as I can go. If I were to read it in front of me, I could probably divulge more insight, but that's what I got off the top of my head.
Well, to get more insight, people just need to listen to the EP, right?
You know, that's probably a pretty good suggestion.
Good start.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Sludge Rats then.
I have a background in environmental science and in gasoline cleanup in soil and groundwater, and that song is about basically the largest victims of environmental pollution, which is oftentimes people of color and poorer neighborhoods in general. That song is basically about them kind of shining a light on that, and also maybe a rise to fight against that kind of pollution, that kind of inequity.
So has the Freqs always been sort of this politically important cause kind of group when it comes to your lyrics?
Maybe only subtly, and I don't think anybody's noticed until now, maybe.
Okay, fair enough. The only song we haven't talked about is Chase Fire Caught Smoke. Maybe, you know, forest fires out in California or something like that. Is that where that was going?
No, this song is a little more straightforward. I'm a big fan of like horror films, and it was kind of setting this creepy scene of somebody stalking another, but then they find out throughout the song, I guess by the end, they find out that they're actually fairly meaningless without that person's attention. Have you ever listened to the song Cactus by the Pixies? No, well, I'd highly recommend it. It's kind of a riff on that idea.
Okay. I'm terrible at interpreting songs, so I just like the grooves, and I like kind of like the way that it all comes out. I'm one of those guys. Sometimes I'll get deep into it, but I don't really have the time to philosophize sometimes.
Well, I sincerely hope that you can enjoy it on a surface level. That would be doing the job first and foremost, right?
Exactly. Did you guys produce the EP yourself, or did you work with a producer?
We had Alex, man. He's the head engineer at the Bridge Sound and Stage in Cambridge. Produced it. I mean, we you know, produce is a relative term, but yes, I mean, he was the engineer, the recording engineer, mixing engineer, mastering engineer, kind of like, you know, the fifth Beatle for us in a lot of like, hey, what do we do here? And he's like, try this. And we're like, brilliant. You know, he's a very talented engineer and producer.
Yeah, definitely.
Have you worked with him before on past releases?
Yeah, the last 2 EPs, we worked with him.
All right. Why take the EP route instead of releasing a full album?
So we can release faster, more often, and so that the freshest ideas are out faster.
So we're thinking about doing an LP, though. Hope maybe the next one would be cool if we could do an actual full length.
I would like that. Definitely.
Seth's got more than enough material already, so there's a good chance it will be.
So I hear you on the EP as far as getting the music out faster. Are you guys doing a physical product for this EP?
This time we're not. It's the first time we've tried not doing that. We'll see how that works. I think a lot of people, they buy the tapes, they buy the CDs, but how often do they actually listen to it? Most times, rarely, especially the tapes.
Yeah, they want to. I feel like, especially now when everybody listens for the most part on streaming, like you go and see a band and like you have tapes, you have a CD, whatever, unless you have vinyl. But even then, like most of the time they're just buying merch because they want to support you. Like, oh, I loved the show. Let me buy this to support your band. But like, I don't have a tape player in my car. I don't have a CD player in my, you know what I mean? So it's like, they're doing it to be nice, but they're probably not actually going to listen to it. So it's like, we're doing a thing now where we're going to be like, we have QR codes at the end of our show. So people come up to us and bang, scan, it's right on your Spotify. So that means, that'll translate, at least we're hoping, a lot more than to printing a tape as if it's 1996,
So if someone were to go to a show and they wanted something physical related to the band, would you have t-shirts in lieu of actual physical music product?
Yep. Yeah, we got plenty of t-shirts, and we're working on more merch from there.
You have a couple of local dates coming up. You have one on the 14th, which isn't that far away, in Cambridge at the Cantab Lounge. And this is to kind of promote that single release you talked about earlier. What can people expect kind of at this show?
It's going to be an excellent show because we've got Zip Tie Handcuffs, which is a band that we've really enjoyed from this area for a long time. Somehow we coaxed them into joining. And a couple of our other friends in Wicked Dead and Black Hatch. It's just going to be a really fun night. We're going to be playing the whole EP front to back as well.
In order.
Yeah.
Have you played with these bands before? Zip Tie Handcuffs, Wicked Dead, or Black Hatch?
We've played with Wicked Dead and Black Hatch a few times, but first time was Zip Tie.
Awesome. And then you have another show planned a few weeks after that at the Middle East in Cambridge. That's the official album release show, so I assume you're going to play the EP from beginning to end there as well?
Yeah, and a few extra surprises as well.
And you're playing with Landowner and Miracle Blood for that show. Are these bands you guys have played with before?
Landowner and Miracle Blood, we've run into them in passing. Yeah, I know. And
I was thinking Lansdowne Street. I'm like, it's got to be related to Lansdowne Street.
Close enough.
Yeah, we haven't played with either of them, but we're good friends with both of them for different reasons. So it's kind of like a nice getting the chance to finally share this bill with them.
The Boston and outside of Boston area musicians all pretty much know each other, and it's kind of like a community to help support each other, correct?
Absolutely.
I hope so. Yeah, that's the intent.
Are you just going to stay that local, or are you guys going to tour around the state or New England, or do you have aspirations to go further?
I toured for a long time, doing things, and now I have a wife and kids, soon to have 2 kids. Ian's got 3 kids. So they're Seth and Ian are always more like, come on, man, let's go out there. And I'm like, I'm all set. But we'll be playing in New England. Like, Seth's from Western Mass. We're going to play out there more. We're going to be playing in Rhode Island, regional, I would say.
Yeah, we got a lot of inroads to build first, I think.
Right.
You guys are releasing this music independently. You don't have a label, correct?
Correct.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Have you shopped the material around yet?
Lightly, but I also feel like and Zach can attest to this, like sometimes it's not really, the juice isn't worth the squeeze when it comes to labels. If you can do it yourself and you can control that process start to finish, that's pretty rewarding.
Well, and a lot of the time, not a lot of the time, but there are times where a record label now is like some guy in his mom's basement with a laptop and you're like, Okay, I think we're all right without you right now. You know, we have the internet. We can do it for ourselves for a while, you know.
Well, I would say you have a pretty big international PR company and Earsplit PR. So, I mean, you got at least that going for the band.
It's a good
Yeah,
thing.
that's a very recent thing.
Yes.
And we're really, really lucky to be working with Dave. He's a great guy.
Did you just solicit them in an email or did they reach out to you? How did the relationship with Earsplit come about?
Well, there's this band called Bedtime Magic, and they're from our area. We're good friends with them, and Nick, their singer, is on a couple of our tracks as well for this EP. And he had recommended Ear Split because they had worked with them previously and had some good results. So, you know, friends of friends.
And again, the local musicians supporting each other.
Bingo.
That works.
You guys were nominated for Best Rock Artist of the Year, the Boston Music Awards in 2021. That's a pretty good feat for a band that's got just a handful of releases.
Yeah, we were pretty shocked.
Came out of left field. That was wild.
Yeah. I mean, we just kind of put our nose to the grindstone. We work hard. If somebody wants to recognize that, that's great. We mostly just want people to listen to the music and come to the shows.
Something like that. I assume that there was one of your releases involved. I couldn't tell if it was Head Made of Glass EP or Dirty Money Lip Service.
Yeah, I think it's both that were in consideration because we released them pretty close to each other.
Do they have a big ceremony that you're invited to when you're nominated, or is it more of just like internet presentation of some type?
No, it's a whole thing. They filled oh shoot, where did they go? It's Brighton Music Hall is where they had it, and they filled the room. It's a huge get together. So like I said, we weren't expecting it because I'd still definitely consider us a smaller band, but high aspirations, working hard.
Well, I mean, you lost to a veteran, so that's not the worst thing. Dinosaur Jr. has been around since I was a kid, I think. I think they should be calling themselves Dinosaur Senior now.
They probably should.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe they were nominated. I was like, come on, man. This is supposed to be like local bands. Dinosaur Jr.'s been around for like 30 years, 34, however long time.
Yeah, ironic thing is like I grew up listening to Dinosaur Jr. because they're from my area. I saw them as kind of like, oh, hey, a band from Western Mass can make it. And to have them, crush me is kind of like a childhood dream come true.
So are there any other bands in your life besides the Freqs? A lot of guys are playing in multiple bands just to kind of keep working constantly.
No, I think we're all 100% on this band. All the material goes towards this band. All the effort goes towards this band. It's 100% from each of us, right? I like to hope so, Zach.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, I used to do that where I'm supporting an artist and playing a couple different bands and things. And it's been, it gets to be a little overwhelming. So it's been really fun and awesome to just like, this is our band. This is where all of the creative juice goes. It's great.
And you might just be the first drummer that's not in 10 bands, because I always thought it was a minimum. If you played drums, you had to be in 10 bands.
I did that in my 20s. I'm all set.
Were you guys in any other local bands prior to the Freqs kind of going full steam?
Zach was.
I was, yeah. I went to college in Boston and like I graduated in 2010. So a few years before that and X amount of years after that, I was in my own band. We were called King Orchid, kind of this two-piece weird experimental rock loud band, really fun. I played in this band called Dirty Dishes. So I was in the Boston rock scene maybe like, 10, 12, 15 years ago. It's weird to even say out loud. Like a while ago, and then I moved away to like Nashville and stuff, and kind of took a break from the Boston scene. But I played all the Great Scott and O'Brien's and all that stuff back in the day too.
The Nashville music scene, I hear, is quite the scene. Is how much different is it than the Boston scene?
Very. Country is king there still. It's everybody is, assimilates Nashville with country music for good reason, but there's a lot more to it there. I played in a punk band when I was there. There's a lot of pop. There's a hip hop scene there. There's a huge industry presence in Nashville, meaning like record labels and like, publishing companies and stuff like that. So there's definitely more of that bigger scale feel when it comes to that side of music. But it's similar in that there's a lot of really good musicians all over Boston, lots of really good bands, lots of good artists, and it's like that. And that they share that. It's a high caliber of musicianship,
Well, those are all the questions I have for you today. I appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast. The new EP is out February 3rd, digital streaming. It's called Poachers. Sounds great. Thank you, Seth. And thank you, Zach. Sorry, I forgot your name.
No worries.
No problem. Hey, thanks, George.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Once again, I want to thank Seth and Zach of the Freqs for coming on the Rock is George podcast. Be sure to check out their latest EP, Poachers, out February 3rd through their Bandcamp page. Head over to the Freqs, freqs.bandcamp.com. Take a listen to what's available. If you like what you hear, buy a copy. Support the artist. For all things Freqs related, head over to their Facebook page, facebook.com/The Freqs Band. I also want to thank David Brenner of Earsplit PR for making this interview possible. You've been great. I've been George Dionne. I'll see you again soon.